Hello dear students, today we are going to see the chapter of chemistry IGCSE grade 10 chemical reaction. How far, how fast? First we are going to see the factors that affect the rate of reaction, in which we are going to learn surface area, concentration, temperature, light and catalyst. See, there are some reactions given over here. You can see some reactions are fast reaction while some reactions are slow reaction. For example, ripening of fruit is a slow reaction. Making of cheese is a slow reaction, while burning of coal is a fast reaction, as well as explosion is a fast reaction. So what are the different factors that affect these reactions? That we are going to learn in this chapter. First, the collision theory. You remember this theory very well because it is very important theory, that for a chemical reaction to occur, reactant particles need to collide with each other. That reactant particles, if there will be no collision, there will be no reaction. Not every collision result in a formation of product. And again, the very specifically, if we say, then the fruitful collision can make product. Each and every collision cannot make product. Collision should be there, but the collision should be there with proper orientation and should be there with proper energy. So the minimum amount of energy associated with it is known as activation energy. That means if the particles, reactant particles, will collide with each other with a minimum amount of energy, that is activation energy, then they will be converted into products. So collision which result in the formation of products are known as successful collision. Here one graph is given, energy and reaction. Energy versus reaction graph is given. Here reactants are taken on the left hand side. You can see that. Then these reactants will be able to go with higher energy, and the minimum amount of energy they can reach, that is activation energy, and then they will be converted into product. If they are not able to get to the activation energy, then products will not be formed. So this is the collision theory, that for product to form, successful collision should be there. Now the first factor, जो different factors we have talked about, the very first factor is surface area. That limestone is a substance which can be used to neutralize soil acidity. So powdered limestone is used there. If soil is acidic, then you will need to, suppose you are a farmer, then you will need to add limestone into the soil to neutralize the acidity. So why we are not using the lump of limestone? Why we are using powdered form of limestone? Because whenever you will use a powdered form of limestone, then the reaction will be faster, and each and every particle, means the major content of particle, will undergo reaction. So in laboratory, suppose we are doing the reaction between acid and limestone in the form of lump or powder, can be observed in a simple test tube experiment. Suppose in the next slide we are going to see the picture, that in one test tube you are taking the calcium carbonate limestone lump, and in second test tube you will take calcium carbonate, that is limestone, in powdered form. So the reaction is same, that it will form calcium chloride, carbon dioxide and water. But how? What will be the different concentration? So let us see that. Okay, in the first reaction, the powdered limestone on left, and on right you have taken the lump of limestone. So the rates at which the two reactions occur can be found by measuring either the volume of the carbon dioxide gas that is released, and second is loss in mass of the reaction mixture. So you can see that in the test tube of the left hand side, the reaction rate is faster. So how can you measure the reaction rate? For these particular reaction rate can be measured by two things. मतलब either of these two things. Very first, you can measure the amount of carbon dioxide released, means volume of carbon dioxide gas that is released, and second is you can measure it with the mass of the reaction mixture, because if carbon dioxide is released, then the mass of the mixture will become lower and lower as time goes. So you can see that if reaction mixture lose the mass very quickly, then the rate of reaction is higher. If reaction mixture losing the mass slowly, then the reaction rate is slower. So these two methods are generally used for measuring the rate of reaction for processes involving the formation of gas as one product. Now, the surface area can increase in surface area. What is happening there actually? So if you are increasing the surface area of a solid reactant, results in an increase in the number of collision. The collision number will get increased, and as we have seen the collision theory, as the number of collision will increase, then the probability of getting the successful collision will also get increased. And if the successful collision will increase, then more products will be formed. So here one example is taken that a bigger piece, when you will cut it, then the surface area which is there in the contact with the surrounding is more, and when you are breaking down into simpler pieces, then it will become a powdered form. That means each and every particle is in contact with surrounding. That means there will be more chances of getting successful collision. Now, second factor that can affect the rate of reaction, that is concentration. See, one reaction is taken over here. The yellow precipitate is produced in the reaction between sodium thiosulfate and hydrochloric acid. So if you react sodium thiosulfate, that is Na2H2O3, and hydrochloric acid, so you will find sodium chloride as a product, sulfur as a product, sulfur dioxide and water. Here, because of sulfur, you will find the yellow color. So the rate of reaction can be followed by recording the time taken for a given amount of sulfur to be precipitated. Suppose you are measuring the sulfur that is precipitated out from this reaction, and you are measuring the amount of sulfur produced and time taken to carry out that much of reaction. So you can make the graph and you can note down, you can find the rate of reaction. Sometimes you can see that suppose you are targeting for 1 gram of sulfur, then sometimes the reaction is faster. That means if you are taking the highly concentrated sodium thiosulfate and concentrated hydrochloric acid, then you can say that 1 gram of sulfur will be formed very quickly in fraction of the second, while you have taken the dilute solution, then 1 gram of sulfur can be achieved after some time, some minutes. So the time taken for these to occur is a measure of the rate of reaction, and to obtain sufficient information about the effect of changing the concentration of the reactant, several experiments of this type must be carried out using different concentration of sodium thiosulfate and hydrochloric acid. So you will need to take different test tube. Suppose you are taking 5 to 6 test tube, and in these 5 to 6 test tube you can take a different molar concentration of sodium thiosulfate. Suppose in first test tube you have taken 0.5 molar, then 1 molar, 1.5 molar, 2 molar, 2.5 molar, and you can take the other variants also of hydrochloric acid. And if you have taken the variants of sodium thiosulfate, at that time keep the concentration of hydrochloric acid constant, so it will be more suitable for your reaction to carry out, and you can do this reaction in many sets. Now this is a graph which is given over here, some sample results of experiment of this kind that we have talked in the previous slide. You will note from the graph that when the most concentrated sodium thiosulfate was used, the reaction was at its fastest. That means the time was minimum. So more the concentration of sodium thiosulfate, the time required is less. So here you can see in the graph that concentration of sodium thiosulfate is 0.025 molar, then the time required is almost 30 seconds, while the concentration of sodium thiosulfate is around 0.0075, then the time taken 0.075, then the time taken is almost very high, that is about 115 or 110 seconds. So these way you can compare these, that how fast the reaction will move if you are taking the highly concentrated reactants. So from this data you can, if you want to find the rate of reaction, then you can notice that the reaction rate is inversely proportional to reaction time. If the reaction is taking too much time, then the rate is slow. If the reaction time is very low, then the rate is high. That means you can vary the concentration, you can find the reaction time, and on the basis of that you can find the rate. So reaction rate and concentrations are directly proportional, while the reaction rate and reaction time are inversely proportional. So as discussed earlier, the products of the reaction are formed as a result of collision between reactant particle. So there are more particles in a concentrated solution, therefore more collision will be there. The more often the particles collide, the greater the chance that they have the sufficient energy and give the successful collision. This means that the rate of chemical reaction will increase if the concentration of reactant increase. If you have any doubt, you can contact me by WhatsApp. Revise this thing very carefully. Thank you very much, students. Bye bye.